Today on Auto Aficionado, we're going to be taking a look at a JDM Classic, Shaf Musa's 1995 R33 Nissan Skyline GTR.
My name's Shaf Musa, and I drive a 1995 Nissan Skyline R33 GTR. I got into cars when I can't even remember. It's been since I was a kid. Like, my whole family's been into cars. My dad, he's always a Porsche guy. So I got my first taste of speed at a really young age, I guess you could say. My first car was a 1993 Mazda MX-6 Mystère. Fell in love with it mainly because of the first Midnight Club video game for the PlayStation 2. I saw it on the cover and that was it for me. My love for the GTR, oh God, this traces back to, again, a video game, the first Gran Turismo for the PlayStation. It's my favorite car in the game, and it's been one of my dream cars ever since. A lot of people hate the R33, They love the 32, they love the 34s. It was glorified in movies and whatnot. For me, it was a 33 that was the most, well, to me, the most iconic and beautiful, especially the June yellow R33, which Jeremy Clarkson did a feature on for Top Gear. It's something about that sound of the RB. You just can't, you can't compare to other cars, man. There's no comparison, You hear that motor just scream, and it's just so distinctive. That sound of that straight six, it's just so distinctive.
The Skyline was first introduced in 1957 as a 4-door sedan and 5-door station wagon. It was built by Japan's Prince Motor Company, which later merged with Nissan in 1966. In 1969, the Skyline officially became a Nissan when the first performance-bred Skyline GTR debuted at the Tokyo Motor Show. The first 2-door version was introduced in 1970, but a global gasoline prices and a move towards stricter emission standards stalled any further development. In 1989, the R32 Skyline GTR was launched. Equipped with all-wheel drive and the infamous RB26D ETT, it made 280 horsepower and marked the beginning of a legend. Its successor, the R33, didn't appear until January 1995. The R33 was faster and more stable due to improvements in weight distribution, traction control, and an all-new all-wheel drive system. A more streamlined body and a shorter wheelbase was introduced in 1998 with the R34 Skyline GTR. This model produced even higher performance than its predecessors. In 2008, the legendary sports car was made available for sale in both Canada and the USA as the GTR, Nissan dropped the Skyline name and added a twin-turbo V6 that put out 473 horsepower, propelling the GTR to performance levels that could outclass many American, German, and Italian sports cars. Although early generations were all similar mechanically, Skylines continued to grow larger and heavier over the years. The R33 model that Schaff owns is 5 inches longer than the R32, with an extra 4 inches between the axles. In fact, it's just as big as the current R35 GTR.
I think the Calisonic R32 GTR kind of made the history for the term Godzilla, because that thing on the track was just a complete monster. Especially in the 90s, you know, all-wheel drive, twin turbo, you know, 300 somewhat horsepower from the factory. They say it's 286 or whatever, but that's the Japanese gentleman's agreement. The Skyline, the Supra, the Evo, the 3000 GT, they're all rated for, or rated at 286 or 276 horsepower, but they're more than 300.
In Canada, except in the province of Quebec, cars that are 15 years or older can be legally imported. Starting in the early 2000s, many popular Japanese vehicles that Canadian car enthusiasts had been dreaming about for years suddenly became possible to own. Of these right-hand drive JDM Classics, perhaps the most sought after was the legendary Nissan Skyline GTR.
You know, being a 20-year-old trying to import one of these, it was a process. I'm not gonna lie. It was, you know, took a lot of patience, and I had to contact a lot of people, because at the time, like, you know, importing cars, it was, a lot of people were doing it, but at the same time, it was still difficult. So, you know, I contacted a few buddies, and they set me up with a few people, and I mean, bringing her in took a lot of patience, I'm gonna say, but haven't looked back since. It still feels like day one every time I get in this car. Driving her for the first time, it was definitely, it exceeded my expectations. Well, getting used to it was kind of interesting, because the turn signals are on your right side of the steering wheel instead of the left side, and you're pulling in instead of, you know, pushing out, right? Getting used to the right-hand drive was, I mean, you get used to it. You get used to it eventually. It took a lot in the beginning, but especially left-hand turns, man, I still hate it. Still hate the left-hand turns. When I first got her, she was bone stock, right? So all the mods that you see I've done to the car, yeah, she even had a stock exhaust on there. The one modification the car did have was the ARC induction box, which is discontinued, and it's rare, and I'm not getting rid of it. So as far as first mods go, I started off with, I got the coilovers. I got some HSD coilovers in there. Upgraded the coil packs. Got the Greddy intercooler with the piping. Got the June carbon front lip on her. Got the carbon fiber end caps. I'm actually on my second set of turbos, because I grenaded the first set while I was racing. So I got upgraded Nismo N1 turbos in there right now. They're only temporary, because future mods that are going to be done to the car, I'm doing single turbo conversion. So I got a HKS T51R, which is also discontinued. At one point, I dailied it for a little while, but I learned not to do that. It gets expensive. I tell people whenever they're asking me, they're like, well, what's it like owning a GTR? I tell them it's expensive, because most of the time you're spending money on fixing something. As far as finding parts, they're almost next to impossible to find. You have to source them, and it could take months before you can find the right part. It's not like you can go to like a Napa or a Lordco or whatever, like your Canadian Tire, and just be like, oh, I need this. No, you need to import from Japan, right? So it's and when you do find the part, they're up there in price. They're not cheap. Is it worth it? Absolutely. I wouldn't take it back. I wouldn't change it for the world, man. She's caused me a lot of pain, but I'll never give up on her.
It's no surprise that with the demand for classic JDM cars increasing every day, prices for Nissan Skylines continue to climb. If you do find yourself a clean example of the R32, R33, or the infamous R34, you might consider picking it up because owners like Shaf Musa aren't selling. For more episodes of Auto Aficionado, make sure to like and subscribe, and let us know what you think in the comments. Until next time, stay tuned.